Okay, so our agenda for today, we're going to watch a short video. We'll talk about the basics of searching in Google, mostly Google Scholar, and then transition to searching the UMBC library sources. That would be newspaper articles, academic articles, books, etc. How to filter, how to find exactly what you are looking for. I'm going to do a search demo to show you that, how to sign in and everything like that as well. Then we'll transition over to talking about the Writing Center, specifically organizing sources for your paper, citation help, and then getting help after today. If you have specifics that you'd like me to discuss, please put them in the chat as you kind of go through the workshop. I don't anticipate us taking the full hour. I'll kind of hang back for a few minutes after the session if you'd like to ask a question then as well. But for right now, are there any questions about today? Okay. So again, these are questions that I've gotten in my 10 plus years of being a librarian. Why can't I just Google something? Google is a great tool to use, but not for everything. It is, and again, people say it's everything is there. It's still very limiting, right? In the types of things that you have access to. How do I know which database to use? The library actually subscribes to over 400 databases across the disciplines. As a Research One institution, we pride ourselves of that, being able to be so accommodating to our departments. I've also heard, I found an article for my paper, now what do I do? This is kind of where the librarian comes in and how we assess things. Meeting with your librarian can come in later in the research process, but we do encourage folks to meet with us when they can, early in the process. But yeah, we meet with anybody in any stage of the research process. And then again, citation. Citations can be really tricky, especially when you understand that there are different citation styles. We do have a separate workshop in the series that is specifically only on citations. We'll talk about citation management, etc. So if you have questions about that, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can always email me and I'll share that information at the end of the presentation. Okay, I have a very short video. I think it's like 2, maybe 3 minutes. Please give me a thumbs up if you were able to hear it.
Shoulders of giants. You'll find that engraved on the edge of a £2 coin, but you'll also find it at the heart of any good academic research project. It's a simple metaphor that sums up the core principle of academic research, namely that the work we do is built upon that of the scholars that came before us to allow us to know more and to see further. Imagine these puzzle pieces represent our knowledge of a particular subject, say evolution. Our understanding now is built upon the work of those that came before. Take Charles Darwin, for example. His work on the origin of the species, published in 1859, is widely regarded as the foundation of evolutionary biology. And because he conducted his work in an academic manner, making his sources and references transparent, explaining his methodologies and how he came to his conclusions, other scholars have been able to build upon that, expanding his theories and our understanding, as well as challenging them. And that isn't just limited to the one subject. There are thousands of giants that have developed ideas that we build upon. Take the story of Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible, for example. That provides a very alternative view of evolution. The world was created in 6 days. And other scholars have built upon that over time, developing theories like intelligent design and creationism. So try to keep this metaphor in mind at any point of an academic research project. Your project should not just be regurgitating the work of those that came before. We don't need someone else to just tell us what Darwin already has. You should be adding an original interpretation and your views. At the same time, we don't need it to be so original that it ends up here, adrift of any of the research and scholarship that has come before. A good research project will look at the work of previous scholars, will build upon that while adding original views and interpretations so that you get the opportunity to make an original contribution to the subject that interests you.
Okay. Thank you all for sitting through that video. I know it can be a little dull at first. But I thought it'd be interesting to kind of bring out a quote that really struck me as interesting from this video. Quote is, "The work we do is built upon the scholars that came before us to allow us to know more and to see further." Now, because you all are students, I know we have 2 grad students. I'm not sure if everyone else, if you're grads or undergrads, we are all scholars. We are all in academia. We have our own unique experiences to add to the conversation. So I'd like to hear what stands out to you, maybe in the chat or unmute, about this definition. And as a student, what is your own part in the research process? Feel free to unmute or answer in the chat.
Hi, my name is Brianna Dawson, and the thing that stands out about me is the part where it says allows us to know more and see further. I think it just goes to show that research should be very in-depth, but it's only in-depth because it's based off of work already done.
It's great, Brianna. Yeah, adding to and giving credit to what's already been done, right? Through citation, through mentioning, through adding through your own experience. That's really great. Thank you for contributing. So as you move throughout your college career as a grad student, as an undergrad, et cetera, know that you are contributing to the conversation and the discourse. And there are ways that you yourself can write and publish peer-reviewed content, even at, as your time as an undergrad or a grad student. So here is one thing that I'll put into the chat. We are not researching alone. We know what we know because of the efforts of thousands of researchers before us. Thank you, Leonard. Yes. So I'd like to know, in the chat, I've put in a link to our TinyURL. Hopefully that works. This is to a Padlet that I've created. And once you open up that link to the chat, you should see this page. Hopefully you all are able to access this. I'll give everybody a moment. I'd like you to focus on this first box here. How do you feel about academic research? This is the topic, again, primarily maybe really conflicting for undergrads. Maybe if you are a returning learner and you haven't really done in-depth research in a while, I'd like to know from you how you feel. So to answer, you're going to click this plus button here. And you can either type, "I feel fine," right? Maybe you do not want to use words and you prefer communicating in an image. You can click on the little magnifying glass to do an image search. Or maybe you want to do something like a gift. "I feel scared," right? Once you're done, you can click publish and your answer will be here. So this is a way for me to gauge how you feel, to be able to kind of forgo any in-depth things that we can talk about in the workshop. So I'll give everybody a moment to answer this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Feel overwhelmed? Yes, this is and can be anonymous if you'd like. Yes, it can be intimidating and overwhelming, daunting and challenging most times. Yes, challenging and rewarding. I like this answer. Challenging yet rewarding too. It does help to be able to lean on any mentors in your department, any colleagues, right? Any classmates. Your librarian can help. Intimidating, but also seems fascinating. Yeah, it really is fascinating. We do this for a living. We have fun with it. And we're always on the lookout for new and exciting research to be able to either share with our students or to be able to collaborate with faculty and students. Thank you all for contributing to this. Feel free as we move about to have this Padlet open. The link will stay in the chat if you decide to close out. If you prefer to ask questions anonymously, you can do so here using this plus button and ask an anonymous question. I'll come back to this Padlet at the end to answer anything that may come up. We'll go ahead and move back to our slideshow now. So I want to first touch on Google, and that yes, especially if you are an undergraduate student, you can use Google to search for resources for class. We'll stop. However, I highly recommend checking with any faculty that you're affiliated with, specifically around the assignment. If they're like, I do not want you to use Google at all, obviously, that is what it is. But Google is a great place to get any background information. Maybe you're researching a company, right? Or maybe you're researching the brief history of an organization, current news and up-to-date information. This has kind of come under interesting times lately in that we are seeing more government information be redacted. So in that case, we've been able to kind of pinpoint locations where you can find in-depth government information. So if maybe you're a political science student or you are a public policy student, you can get with me or your subject librarian and we can help you find redacted government information. So I do want to pivot over to Google Scholar. I hope everyone here at least knows Google Scholar exists. It's a great tool. However, it does have its limitations. I want to transition over to Google Scholar for a moment. One thing that I recommend everyone do if you are a Google Scholar searcher is to, one, make sure you are signed into your UMBC email account. So not your personal Gmail or anything like that, but your UMBC email account. You should see UMBC here. Next, you'll need to go to the 3 lines in the top left. And then you'll need to go to Settings, the little gear in Settings. And then Library Links here on the left. You will need to make sure UMBC is selected and checked. If it is not there, you can always search UMBC or University of Maryland, Baltimore County and make sure this is checked. Once you've done that, click Save and you'll be brought back to the Google Scholar screen. You may be asking, Jasmine, why are we doing this? What does this even mean? One, it will help you find things that we have access to in the library. And 2, it's just good practice to make sure that that is always there whenever you do a search in Google Scholar. So for instance, as an example, maybe I'm interested in searching the Crown Act, which is a piece of legislation that focuses on no longer discriminating based on hair in the workplace. Crown Act. Once you hit your search results, you'll be able to see things that UMBC has access to with this Find It at UMBC. So a few folks said into the Padlet earlier that they find research overwhelming, it's confusing. This interface, this Google interface, might be easier for you to understand and kind of sift through if you are new or returning to academic research. So if you were to find something, say one of these, and it says Find It at UMBC, you'll simply need to click there and it'll bring you right to the full text. So if you are maybe a little overwhelmed by our website and it's a little bit too much, I highly recommend doing a basic search in Google Scholar first. I'll say this, Google Scholar does have its limitations in that your filtering options aren't as robust as any database searching, right? So typically you'll be able to search by material type and other filters. With Google Scholar, you really can only filter by year of publication. And then the My Library is where you would go and kind of save and compile things. If we go back just a beat, I recommend checking out the tools at the bottom of each source that you see that you're interested in. Notably the Cite button. That's kind of a handy dandy shortcut that we like to use. I'll mention that this is based off of an algorithm. So if the algorithm is incorrect, the citation will be incorrect. So I highly recommend double checking before you submit this on a paper. Any questions so far about Scholar? So let's actually put this into practice. Say I'm an undergraduate student majoring in psych, and I'm taking Psych 200 Child Developmental Psychology. And I have to find 5 sources, peer-reviewed newspaper, magazine, etc., and write a 3-page paper over my source. This is a typical undergrad paper. So I like to take this approach. Feel free to copy this or remix it as you see fit. If you have a topic is so big and broad, right? Say I'm interested in something that I've heard about or read about or is affecting my family. Kids of divorced parents and mental health, right? Broad topic. It helps if you turn that topic into a question. So it becomes, what are the mental effects of divorce on children? See how we kind of crafted it in a question? We want to find the answer to that. We want to locate sources that will give us more clarity of an answer. And from that question, you can craft keywords to be able to put into your search, such as divorce or separation, children or kids or minors, impact or effect. Let's go ahead and pivot over to the library's website to do some searching. The library's website is library.umbc.edu. So from there, you do see this big search box in the middle of the screen. This is called the OneSearch. The OneSearch is a great place to search in that it searches across most, but not all of our databases. So if you're familiar with like ProQuest as an aggregator database, ProQuest typically won't come up here, but EBSCO will, right? So it might be a little over your head. That's totally fine. Let's kind of do a search for our results. I'm going to start by going to the advanced search because I'm searching multiple words, right? I've clicked advanced search. Now we see we have a kind of broken out search lines at the top of the screen. All you need to do is put in your search terms here. So we'd like to group them: divorce or separation. I'd like either or, right, in my search results. And this is a Boolean operator, and here, children or kids or minors. Let's capitalize that. And then we add a new line here, impact or effect. The cool thing about doing an advanced search is you can kind of filter before you even click search. So if my assignment is to find articles, I can go under material type and know that I'm looking for articles. Maybe your assignment is to find something within the last 10 years. You can put that in as well. And then you can click search here. So right away, we have a lot of different results. You can see here almost 500,000. That's a lot. Right away, before we do any filtering, we need to first sign in. If you're confused about if you are needing to sign in or this doesn't pop up, if you do not see your name here in the top right, you will need to sign in. So I'm going to go ahead and click sign in here and sign in with UMBC SSO. You don't need a separate login for it. It just authenticates. Now you should see your name here in the top right. So now we're ready to assess. I won't go too far in depth into searching and filtering down so much, but I will touch on 2 big things. Material type here lets me go even further. So maybe I wanted review articles, or maybe I'm in a pinch for time and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any time to request something from another school. I need something that we have access to. You can click available online. And If I wanted to take it a step further, you can narrow down your dates a little bit further. Maybe you want something from 2018 to the present. If you're ever in a pinch and you are like, oh, I, found an article that I really, really enjoy. Say, for instance, number 2 seems pretty interesting to my research. Highly recommend taking a look at the detailed record page, which is what this is. From there, if you are ever like, what do I need for a citation? Everything you need for a citation will be at the top of the screen. Title, authors, journal name, year publication, volume, issue number, and page number. So if you ever are like, hey, this is a lot, how do I know if this is what I need? You're overwhelmed. First things first, take a look at the description or the abstract of the paper. This is your window into the paper. This tells you what it's about, what conclusions the authors came to, etc. Right here, the subjects, right? What is the actual article about? What is being mentioned that would spark interest in people doing research around this topic? And last but not least, this is a new feature that I like to show specifically to any student who is new to searching, especially if they're overwhelmed. I highly recommend if you're hitting a roadblock even, right? If you're like, I found one paper that I love, I can't find anything else. 2 things exist here at the bottom. Let's go over this one first. This red arrow that says sources cited in this. Sources cited in this. This gives you every paper that we have access to that original paper has in their reference list. So it's great. It just gives it to you right away. If you are doing research on a topic that is older, this method might be more difficult because the sources that they're citing will be older as well. But this is a great tool to use if you were hitting a roadblock. It kind of leads you on a cookie crumb trail to more sources, which I think is great. And then to go back to that article that we found, I do want to touch on the first red arrow. Find sources citing this. These are articles that cite this paper in their article. So this is everything after this article. So we have access to 6 papers that cited this one paper that we found, which is pretty impressive to me. So again, if you're ever in a pinch, please take a look at the abstract. Always take a look at the abstract. And you can always reach out to your faculty if you're ever like, is this, aligned with the assignment? Faculty really appreciate you taking the initiative to reach out to them and ask follow-up. A few things that I'll mention to you before we head back to the slides. This permalink button here is how you share this page with myself, your professor, maybe a colleague. This permalink button allows you to copy the link and maybe email it to your professor or email it to me, etc. Please do not send the web address link here. Next, we have the citation button here. We do have the kind of 3 big hitters, MLA, APA, and Chicago. So it does give you a generated citation, but again, I highly recommend double checking with a citation manual to make sure. But if you are just kind of in the compilation stage of your research, this is a great tool to use. If you are ever of the mind and you are looking for something and you think, oh, I know I read about this article that we had, or I saw it in this magazine and I can't find it through the library, right? The library is supposed to have it, but we don't. for whatever reason. This toggle that says results beyond USMAI will search your topic across schools outside of Maryland, which is really cool. Here's the toggle, results beyond USMAI. So your results may vary, or it could stay the same. That being said, highly recommend adding that to your toolkit as you move throughout your college career as a grad student, undergrad, etc. And again, this doesn't have to be it, right? There are ways you can get additional access. Case in point, our interlibrary loan service is a free service to you as a student here at UMBC. So if there is a book, maybe, and you cannot find the book here, you've looked maybe at the public library, you can submit a request through interlibrary loan. For articles, physical books, even book chapters, dissertations and theses, etc. Things that are sent electronically, like articles, can be sent as quick as the same day. Books do take longer because they're physical and have to move between institutions. Any questions about the OneSearch, how we've searched, why we've searched a specific way?
I have a question, but
Sure.
it's not related to this.
Go ahead.
When you set up with your UMBC account, right, then I search something on article or a paper, it gives me the options on the right side, find at UMBC. But when I click on that paper, it goes to the website, another website, like the psych or medical, those organization websites. Is there any way to get it right away to the library instead of going through another organization?
Are you saying you didn't do the search in the library's website?
I did the search on Google Scholar after I logged in with my UMBC account. On the right side, it did say find at UMBC. But when I click on that paper, it asks me to go to the website of the organization that has that paper.
So it's like it's almost like taking you to like the vendor, the publisher, right?
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
So how
Okay.
to get around of that?
So since you have a known title and you aren't searching for a broad topic, I recommend putting the title here into the search bar to see if you can kind of circumvent getting pushed to the publisher. Does that make sense?
Okay, that means using on the our library, right, directly instead of going through Google Scholar.
Yes, because that's a known paper title that you have now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. That was a great question. Okay, so moving on, I do want to touch very lightly on specialized or specific discipline resources. The library has crafted research guides like this one here. This is the economics guide that pinpoints specific databases here in the center of the screen, specific for those students. So instead of doing a search in the OneSearch, you can do a search maybe in Project Muse if you're looking for, humanities related content, or JSTOR, etc. To find that, you're going to go to Research Help on the screen and Research Guides here on the screen. From there, you'll need to find your major. As an example, here is the Information Systems one. And then you can open up an individual database to do a search in that database, right? Because the OneSearch can't search across all these databases. Most, but not all. I highly recommend taking a look and getting familiar with the content in your research guides. In these guides, you can also become acquainted with your subject librarian and schedule appointments to meet with them one-on-one on your research, which is a great thing to do at any stage of the research process. Okay, so a few different search tips I'd recommend if you are maybe hitting a roadblock or you're not finding a ton of different resources. Try different synonyms or search terms for your existing terms, right? Maybe young adult isn't finding anything, or maybe millennial isn't finding anything, right? I believe millennials are all 30 now, 30 and up. So maybe you want to type in 30 something, or, you know, young adult, or another term that you're familiar with to find something. And I always like to explain it to students as, how would researchers who have written about what you want to find, how would they describe it? You are the expert in this, right? As this major, you're the expert. I default to you, but we can always craft these search terms together, the librarian and the student. Next, with a research question, select the keywords. So we kind of pin that out, right, from your question. They're all right here. Then separate your search terms with and, right? Divorce and mental issues, or divorce and mental illness, divorce and X. I showed this earlier in Google Scholar, but use quotes for more specific search. So Crown Act together. So I don't have results for Crown here and Act here. I want this specific act. And last but not least, in most of these databases, you will be able to find your filtering options on the left side of the screen. It is a great place to start to look at information. Any questions about searching tips? Feel free to put your own searching tips in the chat. I'm sure we can all learn from each other, but these are just a few that I've kind of learned in my time as a librarian, last decade or so. Okay, so question for you all, feel free to answer in the chat. On campus right now, if you are new, if you know of any that you've heard of maybe, what are your experiences with getting support for research assignments? Do you maybe go to your mentor? Do you go to maybe a professor? Do you go to any type of lab? How do you get research support for your assignments? That's great. Yeah, as I mentioned, professors like when you take initiative and ask for help. I love that. That's a great idea. Ask professor, yes, during office hours. Maybe ask your TA. I was always office hours. Me and office hours weren't like this, you guys. I loved office hours. Great feedback in the chat. Thank you. So now let's talk about the Writing Center. So the Writing Center is a part of the Academic Success Center in the library. It is on the first floor of the library, just to the right of the security gate. If you are new to UMBC, I highly recommend taking a visit into the library to see what we have going on, but specifically for them, they do not proofread or do students' assignments. That has been a misconception over the years. So if you ask the writing tutor to do your assignment or to type anything of that nature, they will say no. They do offer one-on-one sessions that are about 45 minutes long. In person, online, via WebEx, and asynchronous help has been very popular, especially during the pandemic. And then as we transition to come back onto campus. Here are their hours on the screen, as well as their Monday hours. So if maybe Sunday is more of your jam, maybe you work a full-time job, they do have weekend availability that is only online. And if you go now and you're like, how do I sign up? Tutoring doesn't start until next week, so we are about a week out. But I did want to get this on everyone's register now, so you knew where to get help. So tutoring appointments, they vary based on the discipline. We do have tutoring options for a lot of the sciences. That can be in the Computing Science Center and they do have drop-in tutoring. Feel free if you want to expose on your own, that's fine. I will share out these links to you all along with the recording after the session. So no worries about getting the links. If you are maybe an lower level or upper level student, they do offer tutoring as well. Does this include research and creating research? No, however, thank you for that. We do have a PowerPoint and Canva session coming up later in, I believe, October, but that is for creating an academic research poster using PowerPoint and Canva. So those are the only PowerPoint related things we have going on. But that's a great idea. I kind of want to take that and see if my team would like to develop something with me. And again, we ask that you make and cancel any appointment at least 24 hours in advance. Okay, here's what the screen looks like. I'm so sorry the writing tutor isn't here, but this is her screenshot. And this is what it looks like if you are making an appointment on the actual screen. Now, you won't be able to do this until the 10th, but this is kind of a glimpse into what it should look like. And you can choose specifically where you'd like to seek help. The Academic Peer Advocacy has been doing a lot of great work in the library on helping with feeling overwhelmed. Maybe if you need to have a meeting with your advisor and they can kind of help, have the correct language for you to do that. They've been really great advocates, both in and out of the library. And here's what it looks like just on your phone with the different availability types. Again, this is not available yet, but it will be coming after the 10th. And again, here are just a few tips for writing assignments. If you are a returning student, no pressure, but we found it to be really useful to kind of list these out. Being able to understand your assignment. If you have to ask questions, please. We can't really help if we don't really understand the assignment. So getting clarity so we can actually help you do the research would really be helpful. Be clear and concise with your writing, right? Write what you mean. And try not to just write for the sake of meeting a word count. That was a really big deal, especially for undergrads who were trying to meet a word count. Write with substance, right? Document and organize every idea that you have. There are tools out there like Padlet and mind map related tools that can help you kind of have your ideas out. And then you can maybe link them with lines and different graphics and such. And do not be intimidated with the rewriting process. I've found it not to take it personally if I'm asking for feedback on writing. It is, the end goal is to submit something of substance and something that you can stand behind. Read your sentences out loud to test them out. How does it sound? Does it make sense? Are there errors that you wouldn't have caught if you hadn't read it out loud? You can always visit the Writing Center and you can let them know your concerns with the draft that you have brought to them. Use a variety of sources and make sure they're recent. This is really important depending on your assignment. Some folks will say if it's a newspaper article that you're using, it has to be within the last 3 months, etc. So just double check. And then make sure that your formatting is consistent throughout. That includes citation. Before we move back to the library's content, I will mention that we do have a career center on campus. It's in the math building, room 201. So that's separate from the writing center. There's been some misconceptions about the writing center being able to help with resumes. It's a different entity on campus. They do also offer virtual and in-person, which is great for the busy student, as well as drop-in hours a few times a week. I definitely recommend if you are a student looking for things on campus, having them take a look at your resume before you submit any applications via Handshake. Okay, citation has been coming up a little bit, but I do want to just kind of touch on, you need to cite anything that is not an original thought of your own, or you not kind of yes-anding or contributing to that point being made. You have to cite it. This gives acknowledgement and credit to someone else's mind, right? People honestly do not know that you should be citing AI as well. And that is a big thing. If you want more info on that, I can include that as well. We do have a guide on how to cite AI, and I can show you guys that towards the end. But you're basically citing anything that you're using in your paper, right? Newspaper articles. Maybe you're citing an interview with maybe someone that is in your background, podcast, basically anything that you are referring to in your paper. We do have a citation guide on our website that's linked here. And it does, again, depend on the discipline, right? So APA, MLA, Chicago are the big three, and they all have different purposes. And if you want to know more, you can attend our citation style workshop. So we went over a ton of info today, but that's okay if you didn't grasp it all. The whole point of attending these is to make sure that you know where to go for additional help and to get you started to do some independent searching on your own. So the one thing I'll touch on first is you can ask a question in our chat. You might have noticed this little box pop up on some of our pages. This chat service is actually not chat serviced by a robot. This is serviced by librarians like myself in the building. So please be appropriate in the chat, right? Do not ask us weird questions in the chat. Anything library related, right? Do you have this book? Or I need help finding articles on X. Those are appropriate questions to ask in the chat. This is staffed Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you are asking a question outside of those hours, maybe it's 11 o'clock and you have no idea this paper is due next week and you're just getting started. You can go on our website, library.umbc.edu, and this should pop up on every single webpage, this Ask a Librarian yellow bar here. This will pop up a window and we will be able to see what you're typing the next day. So if you have a question, I need help finding resources on X, and it's 11 o'clock, we'll get it the next business day and answer your question then. It's a great tool. You can always make a research appointment with any librarian in the department. So here on the screen is kind of what you'll see. How to get there, make a research appointment, and you'll find your department or your discipline, and you can click schedule appointment here in blue. Now, if you have a schedule that doesn't align with the availability that you see on the screen, I highly recommend reaching out to the subject librarian via email on the screen. This is not exhaustive of our availability. So we really are here to help, and we'll try to make a way to help where we see we can. And again, you'll see that we help with different topics here, right? Help finding information on your research topic, maybe developing a search string that we put into that search bar, different databases to search in, etc. And I do want to plug the upcoming workshops. I know we're almost at time. The next one would just expand on what we talked about today, filtering, specific database searching, etc. That's Wednesday, October 1st at 3 p.m. And then citation prep and management would be Wednesday, November 5th at 3 p.m. I'm going to link to this in the recording email that I send to you all so you have everything, but you can always register 24 hours a day on our events page through MyUMBC. At this time, are there any other questions? I want to go back to our Padlet to make sure. Lost, not sure where to start. Will the library be hosting any workshops about how to ethically use AI in research? Ooh, that's amazing. Great question. So I do want to, hopefully you all have seen this information. The library is doing an AI symposium this year with various topics. This is something that I posted almost a month ago. But you can sign up and register for these individually. So maybe you're interested in this librarian, my colleague who is doing a talk on AI in research and using it can read each description. I highly recommend checking it out. This is running from October 1st through November 12th. So it is free and open and totally online. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.